Hi, my name is Greg, Soul Searching Gaijin, that's me. Today's video, I just want to do a quick review or little tutorial, I guess, on how I'm using Chord Mode on the Digitone 2 on the new firmware update. I think it's really amazing, and if you've been following me the past few pieces that I've been doing, I'm really not focused so much on what I've been creating as much as trying to learn how to put a little bit more harmonic complexity and kind of work on a little bit of different melodies into my music. I kind of, I really should be working on a new live set, but I've just been interested in learning, just expanding my musical vocabulary a little bit, if you will. So today is going to be a little bit about how this box over here and the new firmware update on the Digitone is kind of helping me do that. So let's hop over to this view. Sorry about the glare. It's a little, I don't know. I've been having a hard time trying to get the glare off the screen. I've been messing with that for a bit. So you're going to have to deal. I'll do my best to try to explain what you're not seeing. Okay, so first thing that I did is I came over and I just created this little track over here just to identify the sound. And we'll come into play mode. Just a simple little pad sound, right? So then what I wanted to do was kind of create some chords. So hit the function and keyboard button until it lights up blue. I don't know if you can see that, but there's white and then there's a blue mode. You just have to cycle through the function and press it a couple times to get it to come up blue. Then you'll see up here we have chord mode. Now if you use this knob over here, when we go to this one all the way to the left, you're in manual mode, and I have it set to chromatic. Okay, so meaning I don't have to be restricted to one key. I can kind of create chords on any different note. Okay, then we roll up to the right one and I get folded. I don't really need keyboard folded on because I want to see what I'm doing. Next one up, we have the chord root mode, and you come over here to the right, diminished seventh, diminished major seventh. It just gives you a ton of different chords that you can choose from, right? And depending on the notes. So each one of the notes in the chromatic scale is going to play the same. These are all major seventh chords. And then also up here on knob D, you can choose whether or not you want the root in the bass, 2 octaves low, 1 octave low, in the same range. So for this one, I actually used it on 2 octaves lower. That kind of was just trying to help me separate the bass from the top notes a little bit, and just whatever, it was my preference. And then the other thing that you can do is really nice. By pressing the transpose up and down, you can go in different octaves, but if you go up one more to mode chord center, now if I use the transpose ups and downs, it gives me different inversions of that chord, which is really kind of cool. And at the same time, you can't really see it up here, it's showing what notes you're playing in the chord as you mess with your inversions. And then lastly, I have chord spread, which just spreads out your chord a little bit more. So there's a lot of variations to this new firmware, and it's really, really nice. And then the last one, all the way up to the right on this knob over here, is chord memory. So now let's go back 1, 2 to center. Say I like this chord right here, okay? And I like let's just say I like that inversion. I want to save that, so I scroll all the way up to the right on this knob. It says Chord Mode Memory. So now if I hit Function and Yes, it says over here, waiting for notes. So if I play, okay, so I played, it was a key down, but or a note down, it doesn't really matter. I just hit the note that I've just programmed that chord on, and I was like, okay, now it's asking me, do you want to save it? So if I hit yes, it's going to ask me, where do I want to save it at? If you notice, this one's lighting up green. Say, if I press that, that's where it's going to save it, and then I have to hit yes again. I already have programmed a bunch of chords in here, so I'm going to hit no, and then I'm going to hit no again to come out, and I'm just going to show you. These are the chords that I came up with. They're not all in any kind of crazy order, but then once I have them all in there, I programmed each one. I essentially went in and made different chords. Like, okay, there's a major 7. Yeah, I like that. So I'm going to go, oh, you don't even have to go up. So I'm in that chord mode. I hit function yes, and then I press it, and then it says, do I want to save it? Yes. Now it's going to ask me where to save it. And as I said, I've already filled up my 16 memory slots, so I'm not going to overwrite anything. So I did that for all 16. I went in, some were majors, some were minors, some were major 7s, minor 7s. There's all kinds of things you can do. sus2, sus4, diminished, augmented, all kinds of crazy things. And then, like I said, play around with the voicings and inversions and octaves. Mess around with this knob if you want a bass note to be an octave lower or 2 octaves lower or not even in there. So I did that, and then I scroll all the way up to memory. So now I have my chords, and then I can identify nice little progressions that work, right? And then I got something like, what did I do after that? There you go. So out of all these, I'm using 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 9, 10, 5, 6, 7, 15, 5, 6, 7, 16, 18, and 15. Okay, so there's a few in here that I just didn't use because they didn't quite fit. And that's the tricky part about doing it this way, is you have to make one chord at a time. And until you program them in here, you don't necessarily can't hear them all in a row, which is kind of tricky. So this took me a little while to do this. So once we get to this point, now it's just a matter of coming over to the track that I have, right? And then if I hit, how do I get into, okay, record mode. So you can see I've already gone through, I have created this pattern I'm using a pretty long pattern. I set this 256. Well, first I hit function yes to make my sequencer have different lengths per track. Okay, if I hit function yes, it'll be for the pattern, which will set it back to everything's going to be this one, but I don't want that. So I go function yes. Oh, I just messed that all up. So now we're going to go back to 256. And the reason I'm doing 256 is at normal playback rate, 128 is the full length of steps, right? So I want 256 steps, which is double 128, and then I'm turning this track, I'm having the track length to 128, but I'm turning the speed down to half time. So I can I don't have the resolution, like I can't play as fast of notes, but I can make a longer pattern with that. So it's really nice for doing a longer progression or longer sequences. There are some trade-offs though. So that's what I did with that. Okay. And then this is what I have programmed in that track. I have on here, let's see the trigs. Okay, well, you just have to take my word for it. So, but I'm gonna play that for you. Let me just mute everything but that. So what you're hearing, I'll turn this down right now. So what you're hearing on track 6 over here is the progression, chord progression that I programmed in there, right? And as you can see, it's going slow. So now we're moving on to measure 3. And then in measure 4, there's just a little bit of, actually no, it's the same as measure 1 and 2. Now we go on to measure 5, and I have that second grouping of chords that I identified that I like, kind of like maybe a B section or whatever you want to call it. And then let's see what happens at the end. I think the end I go up on a high note, and then it repeats itself. Should be nice, a high note here. Okay, fine. So, and then we go back to the beginning. So after I did that, I was like, yo, this is great. So now I can like, I can play over top with another instrument. But I also, at that point, since I'm using some chords that are not in the same key, it was a little tricky. So you have to identify what notes work. And if you're not a really trained musician, you have to use your ear, and it takes a little bit of time. So to make it a little easier for me, what I did was I came over to another track over here, and my thinking was I was going to copy all the information from track 6 and put it onto another track, and then turn the arpeggiator on, which you can see is on here. So essentially what's going to happen is instead of playing those chords blocked, I'll play this track. It's playing those chords, but it's playing them arpeggiated style, which is really kind of cool. So if I add both of them in together, it follows the chord progression, which is really nice. I just chose a different sound for my arpeggiated track. And then another thing I did with the arpeggiated track to make it stand out a little bit more, I went into track 8, and then I did function setup, and then I scrolled down till I come to play mode. And I put the play mode on mono as opposed to poly. This just kind of makes a nice little separation of things. Okay, so essentially I play it, and then you can kind of go in and put all your filtering. Like, I don't know what I have on this track. I have a slowly cycling through the synth level. I have a low pass frequency modulation going on, and I have nothing on that one. Okay, so you can kind of do what you want there at that point. And then I came in and on track 9 programmed a little bass line based off of that progression. And then over here on track 5, just a little higher notes to make the melody or the harmony stand out a little bit more. What did I do on 7? Anything? I think I was working on 7. I don't think I got there yet. And then just to kind of keep me going, over on the Digitone or Digitact, I just programmed a little beat, man. Just something to kind of keep me going, keep it interesting. And then at this point, I play around a little bit. Right now I'm using the Soma Terra, which you can see down here. Have to hit the right notes. And it took a little while to figure out what these notes would be. And so you kind of get the idea. I can kind of go through at that point. Now I have a more complex chord progression that's making me think about my melodies a little bit different. And it's just kind of taking me out of the box a little bit of what I would normally do. Normally let's come up here and let's go over here. So normally for me, I would just sit down and maybe start with like a really basic chord progression in just in one key, normally 2, 3, 4 chords max, and then just build up a groove. And then that was the base of my song. And then from there, I put melodies over top. It was really simple. I play in a few keys all the time, so muscle memory is easy for me in those keys. And it was more about the choices of drum sounds and when I brought parts in, parts out, and layering things. And I like that. I love that a lot. I love to make rich, complex grooves, if you will. But I was starting to feel like they were getting a little stale because they were all almost sounding the same in a way. And me staying in the same key all the time. So I wanted to, like I said, infuse some more harmonic content. So that's why I've been going in this direction in the past, I would say month almost. I've been learning a lot in it. It's definitely taught me that I need to practice when it comes to trying to play melodies because I can't just like wing it like I used to. When I'm in one key and if I hit a wrong note, I kind of know where my next note is going to be that I can resolve to. But when I have some chords that have different, that are slightly out of key or borrowed chords or whatever, you have to be a lot more conscious of your melodies. And it just made me slow down a bit, which is one of the reasons I haven't been putting out as much music. I think it was really important for me to actually take the time to learn some of this stuff so I can slowly start to incorporate it into my workflow. So I hope you learned something from that. Maybe I'll finish this piece and present it in a couple days so you can kind of hear the whole thing. But at the moment, I just wanted to get out there and just show you what I'm up to and kind of explain why I've been hearing some weird music from you, man. It really hasn't been about what's coming out as much as what I'm learning, and it's been a lot easier for me to go slow tempos and long held chords, so I can really hear where I'm at and kind of hear what's going as opposed to like a quick or faster staccato groove oriented track. So like I said, hope you learned something from this, and I'll catch up with you next time.